important to mention at least to know that there's a difference between dynamic blocks and parametric blocks. A lot of prospects or clients will have questions about how we handle AutoCAD dynamic blocks. And basically the answer is as follows. We cannot create dynamic blocks because of patent issue. However, we can read dynamic blocks. If you place a dynamic block from a library into a drawing, you can use the grips and you can change the parameters, but you cannot create them within BricsCAD. That's why we came up with a better alternative. We call it parametric blocks. And it gives you roughly the same options as dynamic blocks, in some cases even more options. Just as a simple example, I will block edit this block definition here. And I will turn it into something parametric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to auto-constrain certain parts of the geometry. I can also manually constrain, of course, but in this case, I want to auto-constrain it. And I should now see two new dimensional constraints. One of them that governs the width of this seat. Actually, I'm going to turn this off as I don't need it. I'm only interested in the depth of the seat, which is this, and I'll just rename it to seat depth. And I will save the block. Now selecting this block reference here, I should find this new parameter available, which allows me to change depth of the seat. Or I can select all of the block references together and change all of their seat depths at once. So just as a simple example of how we handle parametric blocks, it might also make sense to show a dynamic block and how we handle it. I don't have an example here right now, but I'm sure you as a partner or reseller do have some examples. It's always good to show the customer that we can handle those as well. A final example of innovations that we keep doing also in the 2D workspace would be Optimize. This is actually a tool that was released this year or last year in October, so very recent. So we can probably expect even more improvements, but basically the idea is that it allows you to optimize non-optimal geometry. So in this case, this is of course an exaggerated example, but it can optimize non-vertical, non-horizontal, or non-diagonal lines. It can close gaps, these kinds of errors. Just to give you an example, I can change my tolerances, which I will do here because this is too much. And you will also see that the preview of which entities it will edit changes as I change my tolerances. So in this case, I want to increase my angle tolerance to, let's say, 2 degrees. You will see that these objects are also included. So I will apply this optimization to these objects. And now my geometry is nice and clean. This is, of course, a very simple example, but it's just to make sure that the client can grasp whatever is happening, and then you can show it on a slightly more advanced example. I also like this example personally because it's a link to our point cloud support, which I will talk about during the Pro demo. But basically, this floor plan was generated automatically from a 2D section through a point cloud that was imported. But as you can see, a lot of the geometry is not optimal, slightly skewed, and there's gaps in between. And if I would want to turn this into an actual BIM model, for instance, in a later process, I wouldn't be able to very easily. For example, if I want to use Quick Draw, which allows me to snap to existing geometry to create 3D walls and slabs, it's not really working properly. However, if I use the Optimize command, I'm going to up the tolerance a bit and change basically all of this. Then my drawing will be cleaned up and I should be able to now use Quick Draw at least a bit better than I used to. All right. So just to recap, focus on the compatibility and the ease of use, the user experience. Focus on the fact that we do support Lisp in BricsCAD Lite. And finally, focus on the fact that we keep innovating with tools like Optimize, Blockify, Move Guided, and Copy Guided, and so on. Okay, that's it for the Lite demo. I will now give the word back to Don, and then I'll see you again for the Pro demo later.
Awesome. Thank